Hey, this is Rory, and this is a new channel. And as you may have seen by the title, today we are criticizing Pinterest for a little bit. Okay, when it comes to this topic, I know that normally when people speak on things on YouTube, there's an emphasis on the negatives on a topic. So today I would like to inject a little bit of nuance into this space. Instead of starting with the negatives of Pinterest, can we please pause for a moment and start with the positives of Pinterest? Which I don't believe that there's a lot of positives, but like they are positives. So when looking at the positives, we're going to be looking at things like Pinterest has creative inspiration. For example, I have a love for fashion. I really enjoy dressing up and getting clothing and then purchasing items to wear for different seasons, for different events, for different places that I'm going to. So I'm a really fashion enjoying type of person. So if I'm looking for an outfit, I'm gonna go on Pinterest and I'm gonna Google, what can I wear during winter, or what can I wear during this season, or what can I do then? And like you can use Pinterest for fashion inspiration, but when it comes to fashion inspiration, I have never looked at Pinterest and then copied an outfit exactly, because then I feel like it takes away the fun and the playfulness that comes with being in fashion. Fashion is a creative hobby. It's like I wouldn't go on Pinterest and then take someone else's artwork and then pass it off as my own. Like now I'd be like, I got inspiration from this reference image, and then I would be like, yeah. And as a creative person, you can't just copy other people's creative work because it is important. I said we're gonna start with a positive, but that sounds a lot like a negative. Anyways, as I said, I don't believe that there's a lot of positives to Pinterest. And it can inspire artists and give them something to work with and something to look at and to take inspiration from. So that's what Pinterest is. It's a platform for you to take inspiration from. And when you think about people taking inspiration from these kind of platforms, it reminds me of this quote from very horrible book. We can all agree, Colleen Hoover, It Ends With Us, where one of the characters, when deciding to design the floral shop for the main character, the side character deciding to design the floral shop for the main character, she says, when describing why she's so good at what she does, she says, I'm a Pinterest whore. And that really resonated with me at the time. I was like, oh my god, that's amazing. I agree. We are all Pinterest whores. We're all looking for inspiration on Pinterest. So Pinterest is a place where you can find a lot of inspiration. You can find a lot of beautiful and artistic things on Pinterest. When it comes to art and creativity, if you were looking for that, you can find it on Pinterest. Now that we have injected enough nuance for a whole family of 5, let's look at the negatives behind Pinterest. There are plenty of negatives to look at, starting with aestheticism. This is a major thing on Pinterest. Most of the things that you Google on Pinterest, if you Google it without the word aesthetic, you're probably not going to be met as beautiful things as when you enter the search term aesthetic. And I have a few problems with this. Number one, aestheticism is a movement that was made a very long time ago. I'm not going to give you guys a history lesson. I don't even know the history properly myself, but like I know, like in the picture of Dorian Gray, they mention the aesthetic movement. No, they don't actually mention it, but like the Dorian Gray is very on point when it comes to aestheticism. And if you're looking for the flaws inside of aestheticism, Dorian Gray, the book, it describes this perfectly. It is basically like we believe that because something is beautiful, it holds value and substance. But that is not necessarily the case. For example, like in Dorian Gray, if I were to say that someone is moral and has a good conscience just because they are beautiful, that would be ignoring all of the other nuances that comes with a person's personality. For example, if I were like extremely gorgeous, and I were to commit murder, like literally I should have stabbed someone, but then I walked around and told people, no, I didn't do it, and they believe me just because I'm pretty. I feel like that would cause quite a bit of concerns. And yes, pretty privilege is a thing and people do get away with things, but I yeah, they do actually kind of get away with murder because they look normal. They look completely normal. Guys, do you see the problem with aestheticism? Doesn't sound like a good thing. It sounds like equating moral value to the way that something looks is a really bad idea. And I feel like Pinterest, it doesn't equate morality two things. Well, actually, it does equate morality to things. It equates morality to being white and thin, which I feel like a lot of people have talked about. So I'm not gonna hammer on about that because I feel like we know this by now. You search on Pinterest, being white, pale, and thin is seen as like the pinnacle of beauty, and it's seen as the top of the pyramid and whatnot. And that obviously is flawed. It is beyond flawed. And I feel like Pinterest perpetuates a lot of harmful stereotypes around beauty and the way that it works. Pinterest beauty is colonial. It is not a good kind of beauty. It's not the kind of beauty where you look at that and it's like, oh, there's various different kinds of beauty. Oh, there's very different aspects to beauty. No, Pinterest is just you need to look one specific way and then you're considered as beautiful. If you want alternatives, then you have to search alternatives. If you Google a look, you're probably going to get it in a certain type of way. Like the person that you're Googling is going to look a certain type of way. And for me, that just doesn't sound right. Sounds rather racist. So, moving on from the first problem with Pinterest, let's move on to the second problem: extreme wealth and comparison. Let's start with comparison. We all know the quote, comparison is the thief of joy. So when it comes to Pinterest and comparison, Pinterest has a massive issue with perpetuating comparison. Even if you think that Pinterest is positive for you, even if you think Googling those beautiful women on Pinterest has a positive effect on you because it encourages you and inspires you to be just like them. And I see it all the time, like people creating videos where they're like, becoming a Pinterest woman for a day, being a Pinterest woman for a day. What's so aspirational about being a Pinterest woman? I'm not saying there's things wrong with having goals and aspirations, but it's like, what about being a Pinterest woman is so interesting? Like, what are you aspiring after and why are you glorifying that? Explain it. Like, okay, I'm not going to go into too much deep than that. What I was trying to say is a lot of the time when you look at Pinterest, you are subconsciously comparing yourself to those Pinterest people, whether you know it or not. You can be looking at those Pinterest people and thinking passively, no, I'm not comparing myself to this girl. I'm just looking for inspiration. Like, oh, maybe one day I'll look like that or like something like that. But your brain is wired to look at other people around you to figure out where you stand. So you're competing with people who don't exist. If you still cannot understand how Pinterest is causing you to compare yourself to the woman online, all you need to do is go outside. I did this for a bit. All you do is you go outside, you walk around with people in your real life, like people you see each and every single day. Go look at them. Look at what they're wearing. Look at how they are dressed. Look at how they act. Look at what they speak like. Listen to their goals. Listen to their hobbies. And then compare yourself to them. Then for an experiment, go on Pinterest. Google the most perfect thing you can find on Pinterest. Compare yourself there. Do you see how there's difference there? Because when you compare yourself to people in real life, it's like people have different income levels. People have different aspirations. People have different levels of achievement. People are at different levels. It's like people are not uniform. But when you're on Pinterest, everyone is uniform because people glorify it and people like it and people continue to like it. So the algorithm continues to show it to you. But it does not necessarily mean that it is real or present in real life. So when you're looking at Pinterest, I just want you to have more like carefulness when staring at these Pinterest things, because it is not always that when you are on Pinterest it is positive. For me personally, I feel like there's a lot of stuff when you're on Pinterest not very good, not very positive, not very funsies. Okay, I feel like Pinterest is like Instagram, but more sinister, because at least when you're scrolling on Instagram, you know it's bad for you because everyone and their mother has warned you against being on Instagram. But when you're on Pinterest, it's the exact same post as Instagram. In fact, some posts are copy and paste people's Instagram highlights. You are seeing people's highlights and then believing it to be reality. If you cannot understand why Pinterest is not reality, go outside, sit on a cafe street or somewhere where you can see people, watch what they're doing, watch what they're wearing. For example, even with something as simple as fashion, if you go sit outside, probability is they're not going to be wearing the stuff you see on Pinterest, depending on where you live. If you live in a really big city, maybe they'll be wearing the same stuff you see on Pinterest, but a lot of the time people in real life are wearing very simple and basic things, and that's a massive topic in the fashion community. And I really love the fashion community. I watch them a lot of the time, so I understand how being on Pinterest can sort of warp your perception a little bit and make you think that things are more popular than what they are, and kind of problematic. So when I say kind of problematic, I mean I think it's majorly problematic. I'm just trying to be nice. But that's on comparison and self comparison. When you look at the extreme wealth on Pinterest, I don't know what income level you as the viewer watching this video as, but I'm assuming if you are a teenager, teenagers are known for being a little bit broke. I mean, we have the college teenagers, the university teenagers, all a little bit broke. Okay, it's standard and normal for a teenager to be broke because even if you are rich or you come from a high income family, the money that you have is not your money. That is your family's money. You are simply the representative of your parents' money and how they spend their money. You are not your own money. You don't make your own money? You're 18 or 16, 17. How are you making your own money? If you're making your own money, you probably started with waitering and other forms of income, which isn't, I don't know if it's typical depending on where you guys live, but as far as I know, it's somewhat typical, but it's not a lot of money. I mean, waitering is not going to give you billions. You're not going to become a billionaire by being a waiter unless you're saving or you have investment fund. I don't know. But I just feel like it's very unrealistic to believe that teenagers have a lot of money. I mean, that's the kind of stuff you see in movies. But if you go on Pinterest and you Google Ralph Lauren, you'll find Pinterest girlies wearing Ralph Lauren. The country that I live in right now, guys, Ralph Lauren is expensive. I mean, it's not crazy out there, but for some people that's their whole salary on a t-shirt or a polo neck or something like that. I'm not hating on Ralph Lauren. I think it's really aspirational, and one day, crossing my fingers, perhaps I could wear it, but it's aspirational. It's meant to be something that not everyone can achieve. So when you see it over and over on your Pinterest feed, you start to believe that it is more achievable than what it actually is. It's not. Ralph Lauren is something that people aspire to. It is not something that is commonly found. So when you start comparing your wardrobe, maybe you wear something more typical, like Nike or Adidas, which are also kind of really hard for some people to have. Fashion is a luxury. It's not something that everyone has access to. So when you see stuff like that on Pinterest all the time, it can make you normalize things which are not normal. You can start to believe that certain things are normal and typical and the standard when they aren't. And I don't think that that's healthy. I think that it gets to a point. You know what I mean? It gets to a point where it's at what point is this toxic? At what point is this not good? You know what I mean? And I feel like the point where we can Google anything on Pinterest, that's when it starts being not good. I mean, like I said in the beginning, there is nuance to this. Pinterest is aspirational. You can set vision boards and goals for yourself for the next 10 to 15 years. You can aspire to wanting to wear Cartier, Hermes, all of these. You can aspire towards it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're meant to have it now as a teenager. I can count on my fingertips the amount of 18-year-olds I know who just wear Hermes casually, and if they do, they probably got it from their parents. They're not really doing it on their own. There's a lot of pressure to put on a teenager to expect to be having those things. And when you cast aside the fashion industry, there's so much else on Pinterest that has the exact same vibe to it. For example, skincare and stuff like that. Those girls with the clear skin, they are not everyone's reality. Most people have acne. Most people are struggling with their skin. Very few people have good skin. Having good skin is an anomaly. Not an anomaly, I would say. Sarah Engel, a YouTuber, she once said that her sister is an anomaly because she only gets pimples every now and then. And she was talking about skincare, and most of her content is about skincare. And so I'm just thinking, even the people who talk about skincare back in the day, they knew that having clear skin is, again, aspirational. It is the same thing as Ralph Lauren. It's the same thing as Polo. It's like being a model, right? Speaking of being a model, when you go on Pinterest, those girls, they are literal models. And then you are comparing yourself to a model. That's their job. They get paid to do that. They get paid to look the way that they look. And you are then trying to be like them. But that's their work. If you had to work for something, and you were getting paid to work towards it something, trust me, you would put in a lot of work and effort to look a certain type of way or to live up to the ideal and standard that your work wants you to be. Even if it's hard, even if you struggle, even if it's difficult, that's why you get things like slave labor, because money is important and people are trying to earn money. And it's not easy, and it's not readily available, and it's not necessarily easily accessible. So people will go through extreme lengths to earn money. So these girls, they will literally do things that are very extreme, I wouldn't say it's very extreme, but like in my opinion, most people are not getting procedures done on their face. The typical person is not getting a facial every week. Like these are not normal things. These shouldn't be normalized on Pinterest, and that's why I think Pinterest has a problem, because how can you normalize things like that? They're meant to be aspirational, they're meant to be out of reach, meant to be out of touch, but now it's accessible and something that everyone can do and easily available, and I just don't think that's realistic. I think it is toxic. Speaking of toxic, there's a trigger warning for the next segment of the video, so if you are sensitive to anything like weight and being thin, this is a very, very sensitive topic, but it is also all over Pinterest. Pinterest has a habit of perpetuating eating disorders. When you go on Pinterest, it is not hard to fall into that trap of looking at thin people. And in fact, the first thing you see when you enter Pinterest is thin people. You have to customize the stuff that you see in order to not be met with thin people, collarbones and stuff like that. Like that is something that is frequently seen on Pinterest. It is all over Pinterest. Being thin is seen as glorified almost on Pinterest, and I don't understand how this became a societal value. I'm not saying it's bad to be healthy, but it is kind of problematic if you're encouraging people to be underweight, and most of the people I've seen on Pinterest are underweight, and if they're not underweight, then they're not consuming the right amount of calories that they need for their body to survive, and people are struggling, and these models or whatever it is that's perpetuating this trend of extreme thinness, when they perpetuate these cycles of thinness, it makes it harder for the average girl, because they obviously start to feel insecure because they're looking at models who are extremely thin and they compare themselves to that. But I swear, if you go outside and you look at people and you count on your fingers how many thin people you see, unless you're living in somewhere like LA or something like that, you're not going to find a lot of thin people. If you look at your own, not to be rude, but look at your own mother, for example, and you'll realize that she doesn't look like those Pinterest people. Do you hate your mother? No. There's a question. People judge themselves very harshly. Moving away from eating disorders as a topic, people judge themselves very harshly. They compare themselves to these Pinterest models and stuff, but they would never do that for the other people in their life. They would never compare other people in their life to the same standard that they compare themselves to the Pinterest girls. You would not hold up your friend to the Pinterest girl status, but you hold yourself to that? Are you not worthy of the same care that your friend gets? Are you not worthy of the same respect for your body, for your health, for your nutrition, and however you're feeling that your friend gets? Like, are your fashion choices not as valid as your friend's fashion choices, depending on which brand you wear? I mean, that just doesn't feel right to me. And speaking of which, Pinterest sometimes, just like any other social media platform, it perpetuates overconsumption. I've noticed this a lot. When you scroll on Pinterest, there's many different sides of Pinterest, but a lot of what you see on Pinterest is a lot of overconsumption. For example, in order to get clear skin and to be that girl, or to be like this and that, whatever aspiration you have, you need to consume. So in a capitalist society, you are being met with consumerism as a form of having a personality, and I just don't think that that's fair on anyone. You are not what you consume. I mean, yes, it is a part of your aesthetic, and yes, it is a part of your appeal and who you are as a person, but like, you're not 100% what you buy. I mean, that would mean that gets elitist really quickly. I'm not going to go into depth on that, but I'm pretty certain you can imagine how people who are struggling can then feel inadequate and unfair, and I just don't think that that's a fair comparison to make. You know what I mean? Anyways, what I'm trying to say is, I feel like Pinterest perpetuates overconsumption because it sells you this ideal of you can also aspire to be this person if you buy these things. If you buy these things, that just doesn't sound fair to me. I mean, why are we buying things in order to be like other people? I mean, that doesn't sound right to me. I mean, you need to buy 10, 13 products of skincare, have this product, that product, in order to look good, in order to be this certain type of way. But it's like, why are you aspiring to be this type of way? What do you gain from looking this type of way? What is it that you're actually seeking out? What are you looking for? You feel like you need to sometimes look inwards and then look at your own value systems and then think to yourself, like, what am I actually aspiring to in purchasing these things, and why is Pinterest able and capable to sell me these things? That's a good question. Wait, on that same note, okay, Pinterest has this habit of selling people things. I mean, that's what people use Pinterest for. They use it for affiliate links. People are making crazy amount of money. they're selling you products based on aestheticism. This looks good, so buy it and use my link to buy it, and then I'll get money. You feel like that's what people are using in order to earn money on Pinterest, and we as consumers are falling for it. We're seeing these pretty things and we believe that we can be those people based on what we are buying, but those people don't exist, and if they do exist, it's in very scarce numbers, and we're trying to do that mostly as teenagers, and it's very difficult. And that's why when the Sephora kids came around and they were buying expensive products with their parents' money, people were upset, because it's like, that's not normal. First of all, a child's skin doesn't need that many products, but they've been like online and they see Skincare so much that they started purchasing Drunk Elephant and all of these different products, even though they didn't need it and their skin definitely didn't need it. They started purchasing it, and like, I just don't think that that's fair. I'm like, take a step back from the internet and you'll realize the culture actually kind of toxic, you know? It's genuinely kind of toxic. And by kind of toxic, I mean severely toxic, okay? I think Pinterest is bad when it comes to overconsumption. When you look on there and you see these large hauls and stuff like that, it's just as bad as TikTok. It's just as bad as Shein and H&M and fast fashion. I don't like it, okay? When it comes to Pinterest, to end off this video, we've said a lot of things about Pinterest. We spoke about aestheticism, we spoke about comparison and how Pinterest is like Instagram. We also spoke about the eating disorders that it perpetuates, and we spoke about overconsumption. Now, when you look at all four of those things, can you really look at Pinterest and say, oh, this is a completely innocent app? And including the racism and including the elitism and including the amount of money and selling this aspirational dream without even knowing why you're chasing after it. You just know that people generally chase after it and aspire after it. Does it really sound like Pinterest is a completely innocent app? I mean, no one is necessarily getting hurt from Pinterest. Well, except the planet and you. That's who's getting hurt from Pinterest. Okay? Like, it's not like Shein where other people in other countries are getting hurt. It's you. You, the person who is consuming Pinterest, is being harmed by it. So if you spend a lot of time on Pinterest and you have massive Pinterest boards saving girls that look a certain type of way, I advise you to maybe stop with that. Or if you can't do that, at least set an app timer to monitor your consumption on Pinterest. Let me tell you a personal story. I used to download a lot of images off of Pinterest, and then I used to save it to my gallery, and I used to be like, oh, that's what I'm going to be like. That's what I'm going to aspire after. But the thing with me is, I'm going to say, in my personal opinion, I think that I look good. I think that I am a good person as well. I think that I have good morals. But when I started scrolling on Pinterest and watching all of these other girls and what they did, these girls, they aren't even real. They're getting paid to post that. They're getting paid to make certain that their rooms look a certain type of way, that they look a certain type of way. They're using heavy filters and stuff like that. So I started to unconsciously compare myself to them, and I didn't even notice until a friend of mine said, oh, I'm cutting back on social media. So I said, okay, maybe I'm gonna also try to cut back on social media. I got rid of TikTok. I haven't been on TikTok, and when I cut off TikTok and my brain sort of reset itself, I was like, wait, Pinterest is kind of odd. And all of these girls that I've saved on my phone because I'm trying to be like them, that's also kind of odd. So I deleted it and I felt better. And then I started taking walks like I recommended for you guys to do, and looking at the people around me and seeing what they look like and seeing what the real world is actually like. So basically, touch grass. I started thinking to myself, okay, this doesn't seem right. Like, this whole Pinterest thing doesn't seem right to me. So I haven't really been on Pinterest. I've been avoiding it. I think I deleted the app entirely because I just don't want to be on there and compare myself to other people. If I'm aspiring towards something, I think whatever I'm aspiring towards next should be my own personal goals. I know what I want in life right now, and I just think that I can achieve that without staring at other people and their progress. When you're trying to make progress in something and you're trying to aspire to something, sometimes it's best to look at yourself first and look at where you are personally, and not look at where other people are and where their lives are and where they've gotten. It is instead the best idea to look at yourself and how far you've come with your progress. So that's what I took out of deleting Pinterest, and I would like you to take that same value out of it as well, because I just don't think that scrolling on Pinterest and being on there for extended periods of time is good for anyone. And I'm not saying that if you're on there that you're a bad person, anything like that. I'm saying maybe you're also a victim to the algorithm and a victim to aspiring to do better, to do more, and to be exactly like the people that you see on your For You page. But my life advice is just go outside, take a walk, look at the people around you, and see where you are compared to those people, not the ones online. Because sometimes we forget that those people are being paid to do that, just like models, and just because we have more access to them now than ever before does not necessarily mean that they are the moral good or they are what we are meant to be like and meant to look like. Your life is your life. Your trajectory is your trajectory. What is unique to your life is what is unique to your life. You don't need to look like Pinterest girls, and you don't need to look like the people on your For You page. You need to look like you. You need to look like who you're gonna look like as an adult, and your life needs to look like what you're gonna look like. It's your life. You are being affected by Pinterest, so it is your decision whether or not you want to keep the app and you want to keep playing into what Pinterest feeds into. And as I said, there's a lot of nuance to this. There is an inspiration that can be taken from Pinterest, but it gets to a point where it's like, is this inspiration or is this toxic and making my self-esteem lower? And you are the one that needs to decide where that line is. Personally, for me, I said the line was when my self-esteem got bad and it was making me feel like I needed to be like the girls on my phone, and so I deleted it and I haven't been on the app since. And I personally believe that Pinterest has a problem. But if you're using Pinterest productively, if you're using Pinterest for creativity, for inspiration, for fashion, for music, for art, for all of these different things, Pinterest has a lot of different functions. But if you notice that Pinterest is bad for you, then you know what to do. So I'm just saying, I really liked Pinterest as an app, but I needed to take a step back and I'm not on there anymore. Anyways, that was my very first YouTube video on this channel, and what I would like to say is I really enjoy talking about Pinterest and having commentary on these apps and social media. My entire YouTube channel is focusing on these kind of apps and the way that social media has an effect on us. So my next few videos, I'm thinking, will be about social media and the way that it impacts us, whether that be about fashion or whether that be about apps and stuff like that. I won't necessarily stick to one thing. Like, I feel like a lot of YouTubers, when they create their channel, they stick to one thing. For me personally, I think I will expand a little bit, but I'm just saying, I really love talking about social media and the way that it has an impact on us, because personally I feel like it had a major impact on me and my life. So I'm just trying to convey that message to other people, that social media does indeed impact us, and it does impact the way that we behave, and it impacts us psychologically. So there's plenty more videos to come, I think. Who knows, maybe I talk at TikTok next, like every other person has. I mean, there's so much to talk about. So I'm really excited to start this. And the name's Rory, and I really, 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 really love making this video. See you.